being the observer of your thoughts. That's why you can't be your thoughts. You are the observer. That's where you start. You can watch a movie, but you'll never play those parts. You listen to a song and it can really touch your heart. Keep being the observer. That is your part. When you get a whiff, you'll feel a shift, and you can live. Feel the peace in the space you create, and let your awareness drift.
Welcome to week 8. Last week, we cleared away the magical thinking around manifestation and established what's real. Attention shapes perception and behavior, which influences outcomes. Your consciousness matters, just not in the way pop spirituality claims. This week, we're going deeper into how conscious reality actually works, using a framework from Eckhart Tolle that I find remarkably useful: the vertical and horizontal dimensions of life. According to Tolle, the horizontal dimension is the dimension of doing, the activities and goals you engage in across time. Many manifestation teachings focus exclusively here, suggesting that if you get what you want, you'll be happy. But that's a fallacy. You may get what you want, but it doesn't ultimately satisfy you. There's another dimension Tolle calls the vertical, the dimension of being. Equally important when we talk about manifestation. The mastery of life is having both. The dance between being and doing, not as separate things, but acting together as one. What this means practically is you can't create sustainably from a state of lack, stress, or ego-driven striving. True manifestation arises from wholeness, presence, and alignment. Not because the universe rewards good vibes, but because your state of being affects your perception, decisions, creativity, and how you show up, which then affects outcomes. The two dimensions. Part A, the horizontal dimension, doing and achieving. The horizontal dimension is the world of form, time, doing, achieving. It's where you set goals and work toward them, where you take action in the world, build things, create projects, accomplish tasks, move through time toward desired outcomes. This dimension is real and necessary. You need to engage with the horizontal to live in the world. You need goals, plans, actions, and results. The problem comes when this is the only dimension you're operating in. When all your sense of worth, meaning, and fulfillment depends on horizontal achievement. Because here's what happens. You may get what you want, but it doesn't ultimately satisfy you. You achieve the goal, feel good briefly, then the emptiness returns. So you set another goal, achieve it, brief satisfaction, emptiness again. This is the hedonic treadmill, and no amount of horizontal achievement will ever fill the vertical emptiness. Part B, the vertical dimension, being and presence. The vertical dimension is the dimension of depth, presence, being. It's accessible only through the portal of the present moment. It's where you connect with your essential nature beyond form, consciousness itself, the source of creativity and wisdom, inner wholeness independent of circumstances, the timeless now. The inner purpose concerns a deepening of your being in the vertical dimension of the timeless now. This dimension doesn't operate in time. It's not about becoming or achieving anything. It's about recognizing what you already are: consciousness itself, awareness, presence. And here's what's crucial. The vertical dimension is the source of the horizontal. Action that arises from presence is more aligned, more creative, more effective than action that arises from ego-driven striving. Part C, the integration. Being and doing as one. The mastery of life is to have them both. The dance between being and doing, not as separate things, but acting together, being and doing as one. This means you have goals and act on them, horizontal, but you act from a place of presence and wholeness, vertical. You work towards outcomes, horizontal, but your fulfillment doesn't depend on those outcomes, vertical. You engage fully with life, horizontal, but you remain rooted in being, vertical. When these two dimensions integrate, something remarkable happens. You become incredibly effective in the world while remaining internally free. Success or failure don't define you. Outcomes don't determine your state. You create powerfully because you're not creating from desperation or lack. You're creating from fullness. Manifesting from lack versus wholeness. The fundamental distinction: when we manifest from ego, we tend to have a feeling of lack and scarcity. In conscious manifestation, we create from presence and a feeling of sufficiency. This is the critical distinction. Same actions on the surface, but radically different inner orientation. Manifesting from lack is, I need this to be okay. Without this, I'm not enough. Driven by fear, desperation, comparison, grasping, forcing, striving. Success brings temporary relief, then more lack. Failure confirms unworthiness. And manifesting from wholeness is more, I'm already complete, this world. This would be an expression of that. I'm creating from joy and alignment, inspired by vision, pulled by possibility, allowing, flowing, responding. And success is celebrated but doesn't define you. Failure is feedback, not identity. The self-fulfilling nature, here's where it gets practical. When you create from lack, you bring that energy to everything. You're needy, desperate, grasping. People sense it. Opportunities close. You make poor decisions because you're operating from fear. When you create from wholeness, you bring that energy instead. You're confident, centered, open. People are drawn to you. Opportunities appear. You make better decisions because you're operating from clarity. Same goals, same actions, often, but radically different results because the state you're creating from shapes everything. How to access wholeness? Okay, you might be asking, but how do I create from wholeness when I don't feel whole? Good question. Here's the practice. 1. Establish vertical connection first. Before you engage the horizontal, doing, drop into the vertical, being. Even 30 seconds of presence practice. Then connect with the awareness that's prior to thoughts about lack. Prior to thoughts about lack. 2, recognize what's already here. You're alive, you're aware, you have this moment. That's wholeness. Not because circumstances are perfect, but because consciousness itself is whole. 3, feel the sufficiency. Practice feeling, I have enough. I am enough. This moment is enough. not as not as an affirmation you repeat while not believing it, but as recognition of actual reality. 4, create your inspiration, not desperation. Check your motivation. Am I doing this because I'm trying to fill a hole or because it's an authentic expression of my being? 5, hold outcomes lightly. Care about results, but don't make your okayness depend on them. You're already okay. Results are feedback, not judgment. And here's the paradox. Here's the beautiful paradox. When you don't need something to complete you, you're often more likely to achieve it. I'll repeat that. When you don't need something to complete you, you're often more likely to achieve it because you make better decisions. They're not driven by desperation. You show up more powerfully because you're centered and not needy. You recognize opportunities because you're not blinded by grasping. And you take aligned action. It's not forced action. You persist through obstacles. And failure doesn't confirm your unworthiness. Attachment to outcome actually prevents the outcome. Detachment, while still taking action, often enables it. That's why you often hear with manifestation practices, you say you're going to do something and then you let it go. Don't become attached to the outcome. Aligned action. What is aligned action? With conscious manifestation, we ask, what does the universe want from me, rather than how can I get what I want? Aligned action is action that arises from presence, not panic. It flows from inner knowing, not external pressure. It feels right, even if challenging, and serves something larger than your ego. It engages fully while remaining detached from outcome. It's different from forced action, which arises from fear or a sense of lack. It's driven by I shoulds. I should do this. I should do that. I should be successful. And it feels like pushing a boulder uphill. It serves ego gratification. Oh, I'm great because I did this. And it creates exhaustion and resentment. Now, how do you discern aligned action? Here's the test. Check your state. Before acting, pause. Notice your inner state. Am I in presence or panic? Wholeness or lack? Clarity or confusion? If you're in a contracted state, take time to shift your state first. Use the practices from week 3, heart coherence, surrender, and opening. Then, from that more open state, ask, what's the aligned action here? Often it becomes obvious, not through thinking, but through knowing. The role of surrender in manifestation. Last week we talked about surrender, saying yes to reality. This is where it integrates with manifestation. You surrender to the present moment, what is, while taking action toward a preferred future, what could be. No contradiction. You're not passively accepting everything. You're accepting reality as your starting point, then acting from that acceptance. Your outer journey may contain 1,000,000 steps. Your inner journey only has one, the step you are taking right now. As you become more deeply aware of this one step, you realize that it already contains within itself all the other steps as well as the destination. This is the integration. Full presence in this moment, vertical, while moving toward a goal, horizontal. When action is not needed, sometimes the aligned action is no action, waiting, allowing, letting things ripen, trusting the process. This is hard for people who are used to forcing things, but often not doing is the most powerful doing. You've planted seeds, you've taken aligned actions. Now, can you let them grow without constantly digging them up to check if they have roots? Can you hold the vision while releasing attachment to the timeline? Can you trust that the right things will unfold at the right time? This is faith, not religious faith, faith that life knows what it's doing, that when you're aligned, things tend to work out. Maybe not exactly as you planned, but often better. Frequently asked question number 1. How do I balance being present with planning for the future? Great question. It's not either or, it's both. You can be fully present and plan. The key is, are you present while planning, or are you lost in future anxiety? Planning from presence is clear, creative, and flexible. Planning from anxiety is obsessive, rigid, and exhausting. Same activity, planning, different state, different quality. Frequently asked question number 2. If I'm already whole, why bother creating anything? Won't I just become complacent? No. Creating from wholeness is actually more generative. When you create from lack, you're trying to fill a hole. Once filled, temporarily, motivation disappears. It's done. When you create from wholeness, you're expressing what's already there. Your creativity is endless because it's not depleting you, it's expressing you. Think of it. The most creative, productive people are often those who aren't desperate. They create because they love to, not because they have to prove something. Frequently asked question number 3. What if I feel lack? Isn't it inauthentic to pretend I'm whole when I don't feel that way? Don't pretend. But also don't take the feeling as absolute truth. The feeling of lack is real. The belief that you are lack is not true. You can feel lack and still connect to underlying wholeness, not by denying the feeling, but by recognizing there's a feeling of lack appearing in awareness. But awareness itself is whole. Practice touching that wholeness even while the feeling is present, even 10 seconds. Build from there. Frequently asked question number 4. How do I know if action is aligned versus force? Sometimes I can't tell. Check your body. Check your energy. Aligned action feels clear, even if challenging. Energy flows. Obstacles feel workable. You're engaged, but not exhausted. Forced action feels like pushing. Energy depletes. Obstacles feel overwhelming. You're straining and resenting. Not always clear-cut, but your body knows. Practice listening to it. Frequently asked question number 5. What about external constraints? Privilege. I can't just manifest my way out of systemic oppression. Correct. And that's not what this teaching is saying. Conscious manifestation works within your actual sphere of influence. It doesn't bypass structural issues. What it does, it helps you show up as powerfully as possible within whatever constraints exist. It helps you see opportunities that are actually available, and it helps you respond with wisdom and creativity. It's not a magic escape from reality. It's full-on engagement with reality from your most conscious, powerful state. Here's what I want you to understand as we close. Manifestation is not about getting stuff. It's about expressing consciousness through form. When you're rooted in the vertical, being, your horizontal actions, doing, become more effective, more aligned, more satisfying. Not because you're magically controlling reality, but because you're participating in it from wholeness rather than lack. This week's assignments. your daily practice. In the morning, 15 minutes vertical connection, being, before horizontal engagement, doing. Now, throughout the day, check your state before acting. Am I creating from lack or wholeness? And in the evening, review. Where did I act from presence? Where from desperation? And the two-dimension integration, map one goal with both vertical and horizontal components. Wholeness practice, daily practice of recognizing sufficiency and creating from that. An aligned action discernment. From one area, practice checking. Is this action aligned or forced? And a letting go practice. Choose something you've been grasping. Practice holding the vision while releasing attachment. And next week, we'll explore purpose and contribution, living as an instrument of something larger than personal achievement. But everything we'll discuss next week depends on this week's integration, being and doing as one. Vertical depth enabling horizontal effectiveness. Practice it. Embody it. Let it transform how you create. And I'll see you next week. Ciao.
Being the observer of your thoughts, that's why you can't be your thoughts. You are the observer, that's where you start. You can watch a movie, but you'll never play those parts. You listen to a song and it can really touch your heart. Keep being the observer, that is your part. When you get a whiff, you'll feel a shift, and you can lift. Feel the peace in the space you create, and let your awareness drift. Like waves upon the shore, they come and go. These thoughts arise and then they flow. Step back and watch the mind's sweet show. In stillness lies the deepest truth. Beyond the mind there's living proof that peace resides in letting loose. Just breathe and be, that's all it takes. Watch as each thought gently breaks. In silent wisdom awareness waits. You can watch a movie, but you'll never play those parts. You listen to a song and it can really touch your heart. Keep being the observer,